So, hello everybody. In this session, I'm going to be talking about this topic. The two game-changing realizations that transformed my healing journey, and not knowing these two things hindered my recovery. So, if you're watching live, do say hello. Feel free to let me know where you are in the world. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. Again, feel free to let me know where you are in the world. So there were two things I didn't fully understand for a long time when I had ME, CFS and fibromyalgia. And once I understood these things, it resulted in a big shift. Okay, these were two light bulb moments that really helped me reconnect with my body, helped me deepen my healing and start moving away from the cycle of exhaustion that I had been stuck in. So what I want to do is kind of dive into this, because this really helped me understand the condition, what would help me recover, what was stopping me from healing. And in the first video, I talked about those things. Okay, 3 things I needed when I first got sick. It would have been great if someone had shared that information with me when I first got ill. And part of the reason I create these videos, and this video is going to be part of the Exploring Recovery mini course, okay, that you can go through. There's a number of videos that just take you step by step. I'm adding a few more videos because I felt that these bits would be useful to someone who is new to this condition. All right, so let's talk about what these light bulb moments were. Okay, so number 1 was really understanding stress. So there's 6 components to this. Firstly, I learned that there were different types of stress. There was acute physical stress, for example, being exposed to a virus. There was chronic physical stress, having a health challenge, for example. Then there was acute psychological stress, maybe dealing with a shock or upset, maybe falling over. That's a shock to your system. And, you know, might feel upset if someone shouts at you, for example. Then there's falling over, that you might describe that as acute physical shock. But there's an emotional kind of psychological component to it. Then chronic psychological stress. You know, maybe having a neighbour who's playing their TV loud every night, which is what happened to me during COVID, and not being believed that you've got a health condition. So the second component was understanding that stress was hindering my recovery, i.e. my level of functioning, and my healing, the degree to which I felt whole and at peace. And this is a distinction that Anna Greer made in a video. I will link that video below this one. So I knew that a certain amount of stress is good for us in certain situations, but that too much stress, and this is the kind of third component, makes it more likely that we get diseases that make us sick. The fourth component is that stress can keep us sick and make it harder for us to heal. The fifth component is what I hadn't really appreciated is that stress isn't just the big stuff. Starting a new job, moving home, dealing with a bereavement, etc. It was actually also the small stuff, and the small stuff can cumulatively add up and it can cause us problems. So the sixth thing that I really needed to understand was my patterns. I needed to get clear on the things that I could influence that were putting me in that state of stress. So all of the following kept my stress going. Booming and busting. Chastising myself when I boomed and busted. Stressing about symptoms, which is what I did when I boomed and busted. Catastrophizing and ruminating when I boomed and busted. Distracting myself in ways that achieved relief from the symptoms, which felt difficult to endure, but often would just exhaust me further. And worrying what people thought about my lack of health. You know, I was very kind of sensitive to potential perceived judgment of me. So I also learned that stress is conscious and subconscious. So sometimes I was aware that I was generating stress, but I didn't really know how to change it. Sometimes I was generating stress subconsciously. Didn't realize I was doing it. So the second thing I needed to understand, one was to understand what stress is. The second thing was understanding the impact of stress. So I learned that when the body is in a state of stress, that certain key functions are suppressed. And this explains and helped me understand the symptoms I was experiencing. So the first thing I understood was that energy production and storage is suppressed. So my body was using up energy but not replacing it. That results in an energy overdraft. We're using up energy and we're using energy that we haven't got, so we're going into the red, and it takes more resources to create a unit of energy when we're in the red than when we're in the black. Okay? It was affecting my digestion. My digestive system wasn't working properly. So the cells weren't getting the nutrients that they needed to function, including the ingredients they needed to produce energy. At one point, if I ate food, I would feel exhausted. And that's because my digestive system wasn't working. It felt like things weren't moving, without going into too much detail. I'm sure you know what I mean. One thing I've talked about before that did help is I mentioned to a doctor that when I had grapefruit, my digestion was better. And he said there's enzymes in the grapefruit that help your digestive system. Okay, that's why it can be useful to start with a salad with some lemon juice, because it helps prime your digestive system. So the next thing that was affected was sleep. I wasn't getting deep, refreshing, restorative sleep because my brain was interpreting the distress I was experiencing at being unwell, at not being understood, not being believed, as a danger signal. And in that situation, the brain sends the signal not to activate deep sleep, because our caveman, cavewoman ancestors may have been concerned that there was a tiger, a saber-toothed tiger prowling outside the cave. So it made sense to kind of sleep light and be on the lookout, okay? Problem with that is I woke up exhausted. Being stressed also meant that I hadn't processed feelings that had accumulated in the day. And this would result in lots of dreaming, and I'd wake up feeling like I'd run a marathon, or at least half a marathon. Okay? Let me know if that's your experience. Do you have dreams that kind of feel pretty active and they kind of, it feels like the dreams are tiring you out? Let me know. The next thing that was affected was my immune function. My immune function was at times overactive, so I didn't get colds, flu. For some people, their immune system is underactive, so they're getting colds, flu all the time. Okay? Again, what's your experience of that? Let me know in the chat. And then the final key thing was that my clever thinking went offline. And that's a useful strategy if we're faced with a dangerous situation. We want to be reactive. We want to kind of respond in an emotional way. And, you know, if you're faced with a saber-toothed tiger, that's a useful time to jump into action and, you know, feel alarm and run away. Okay? But obviously, if you're sick and your clever thinking brain get switched off, let's say experiencing symptoms, now you're more emotional and reactive about those symptoms, that's going to lead to more stress. So when all those things weren't functioning properly, that made recovery difficult. So was it any wonder that my body and your body isn't working? Okay, some of the signs that we are in a state of stress are sensitivity to light. And I was very sensitive to light. You know, I've actually got 2 lights at me. They are pretty bright, but I get used to them after about a minute. Okay. Some people are very sensitive to sound. And I was also very sensitive to smell. Okay, my daughter I could hear her. Well, actually, sometimes I didn't even hear her. I started to smell what smelled like hairspray or body spray. And I'd say, did you just put some hairspray on or body spray? And she said, yeah. And I was at the other end of the house, okay? And within a few seconds, I could smell it, okay? So that interests me that propellant was traveling quite a large different distance over a quick period of time. But it was amazing to me that I could actually smell it, okay? Now, if you're in a life-threatening situation, it's really useful to have heightened senses, because those heightened senses can help you survive. Okay, you might be very attentive to sound, noticing or sensing that there's a predator nearby. Okay, as I say, I was very sensitive to light and smell in particular. So the big question is, how could I break out of this stress cycle? So I learned that in order to break out of the stress cycle, which kept my body in fight, flight, and at times freeze, flop, and fawn, I needed to understand how the brain worked, how to spot the subconscious stressors, and how to address the stressors in an authentic way. Now, that's a big topic, so I will explore that in the next video. However, I want to share a really simple 3-step system, which I learned to help me give myself messages of safety, and in so doing, breaking out of the stress cycle. And I invite you right now to do this, as long as it's safe for you to close your eyes. Obviously, don't close your eyes if it's not safe for you to do so. But I invite you just to make yourself comfortable, and you might just check that you're sitting or lying in a symmetrical position. You might uncross your feet, but just make sure you're comfortable. And step 1 is just to take a few breaths. Breathe in through your nose, as long as that's comfortable, into your belly, and breathe out of your nose. You might put both hands on your heart, one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Whatever feels comfortable, or just have your hands in your lap or by your sides. And invite you just to focus on that breath. Breathing in, breathing out, allowing the out breath to be a little longer than your in breath. And as you breathe in and out, just letting your mind, your body, your physiology relax, soften, and let go. And you might do this for a little while, just breathing in, breathing out, just focusing on your breath. You might imagine your breath as a colour. As you breathe in, breathing in that colour. Seeing it go into your lungs. Seeing it being picked up by the blood and transported around your body. That blood nourishing your cells. As you breathe out, just letting go of anything you don't need right now. Step 2 is to focus on your body. So this is what I do. I just focus on my feet on the floor, the contact between my body and surfaces touching my body, the contact between my body and the chair, feeling the support of the chair on my sitting bones, on my back, feeling the contact between my feet and my socks, my shirt, noticing the movement of my body as I breathe in and out. And step 3 is just to say to myself one or more of the following. And I invite you to do the same. You can choose any of these or create your own statements. There is no tiger in the room. Even though I'm experiencing these symptoms or sensations, as I call them, because that word is less emotive, and emotions, right now I am safe. This will pass. I trust in my mind and body's incredible healing power. I trust in my ability to make decisions that support me. So there you are. There's a very simple 3-step system. 1, connect to the breath. 2, connect to the body. 3, send signals of safety. So let me know how you found doing that little exercise. And all feedback is welcome. Whether you found that useful or it didn't help, I'm open to hearing your feedback. So I hope that gives you food for thought. If you'd like more support, I do run a Facebook group. I post every day things to help you move forward. I've had people say that even just the content I share in my Facebook group has helped them move forward. I also run resilience group coaching twice a month at 2 different times. Hopefully that suits most people in the world, and you're welcome to join. There's no charge. You are welcome to make a donation, but no obligation. If you'd like information about that, put the word group. In June I am going to be starting a group mind body reconnect course. It's going to be a 12-week course. If you'd like to know more about that, then pop the word course below. I want to make it as accessible as possible to as many people. So there is a full price, a concessionary rate, and you're welcome to spread the payments in a way that's affordable if it's something you'd like to join. So if you've got any questions, any comments, let me know. If you've got a topic you'd like me to cover, let me know. Thanks for joining me. Do leave a comment, do share if you find this video helpful, helps other people find the video, give it a like or a dislike, and I'll see you in the next video. Dare to dream big dreams. Keep going, you've got this. Wishing you great health. Bye for now.